Welcome to Cheat Confessions. Let's get started with today's story. My wife told me it was a quiet gathering. Told me to take our son to his uncle's so the strangers wouldn't disrupt his routine. She had thought of everything, except the drill I left in the garage, the gut feeling I couldn't shake on the drive away, and the kind of man who comes home early when something doesn't sit right. What I walked into that night wasn't a party. It was the end of 18 years, and the beginning of something I built better. My name is Michael Thompson. Everyone calls me Mike. I'm 42 years old and I run a pest control business in suburban Phoenix. Not glamorous work, but honest, pays the mortgage, covers the bills, keeps our family comfortable. My wife Jennifer works as a coordinator at a non-profit downtown, something she has always been passionate about. We have a son, Tyler. He's 10 years old and he's on the autism spectrum. He's one of the brightest kids I have ever known, can tell you more about the history of diesel locomotives than most adults with engineering degrees. Raising him requires patience and routine, and over 18 years Jennifer and I had built that routine carefully together. That Friday started as a normal working day. I was finishing a termite job at Mrs. Henderson's place when Jennifer called around 5:30. Her voice was unusually bright. Almost too bright. She said some of the girls from work wanted to get together at our place. Nothing big, just pizza, a few people catching up. Very low key. And then she suggested I take Tyler to my brother Danny's for the night. Said Tyler might get overwhelmed by the noise of unfamiliar people. Said she had already called Danny and he was excited to show Tyler his new locomotive model. It all sounded reasonable. She was right that Tyler's weekend routine was sacred. She was right that Danny would love having him over. And she had been working hard lately. She deserved a night to unwind. What I didn't know was that she had been working on something else entirely for the past 6 months. I dropped Tyler at Danny's around 7:30. Watched my son's face light up at the sight of a detailed replica 1950s diesel locomotive and felt good about the decision. Danny ruffled Tyler's hair and told me to enjoy my evening off. I thanked him and drove away. That's when the nagging started. I tried reaching friends. Rick didn't answer. Tom went to voicemail. I was circling the city with a free evening and nowhere particular to go when I remembered the drill. My Milwaukee drill, the good one, was sitting in our garage. I needed it for tomorrow's job at the Peterson place. The house was 15 minutes away. I would swing by, grab it, say hello to a few of Jennifer's work friends, be the supportive husband for 5 minutes, and head out. As I turned onto our street, something stopped me cold. Cars. Lined up on both sides of the road as far as I could see. At least 8 vehicles I didn't recognize blocking the entire block near our house. I parked 3 houses down and walked. I could hear the music before I reached our front walk. Not the soft jazz Jennifer played for dinner parties. Something with a heavy beat you could feel in your chest from the sidewalk. The windows glowed. Silhouettes moved through every room I could see from outside. This was not a few girls from work. I stood at the front door with my key in my hand. Part of me wanted to knock, to give her warning. But this was my house. I had no reason to announce myself at my own front door. I turned the key and stepped inside. The scene hit me like a physical blow. Strangers in every corner of my living room. Drinks, laughter, expensive cologne hanging thick in the air. Not the middle-aged non-profit workers I had expected. People dressed like they had come from an upscale club. Younger guys in designer shirts. Women in dresses that cost more than my truck payment. Then I saw Jennifer. She was at the kitchen island. And she wasn't alone. He was standing next to her with a kind of easy confidence that immediately told me everything. Mid-30s. Gym built. Expensive watch. And his hand was resting on the small of her back like he belonged there. What got to me wasn't just his posture. It was hers. She was laughing, that genuine, unself-conscious laugh I hadn't heard directed at me in months. Her body was turned toward him, leaning in, touching his arm when she spoke, looking up at him with an expression I used to believe was reserved for me. 18 years of marriage, and I had never seen my wife look at another man that way. I moved through the crowd toward the kitchen. My work had taught me to navigate tight spaces efficiently, and people stepped aside without noticing me. Just another guest at the party. I caught the end of their conversation as I approached. "You're terrible, Marcus," she was saying, swatting his chest playfully. "I can't believe you said that to your boss." His voice was smooth and unhurried. "Life's too short to play it safe. Sometimes you've got to take what you want." The way he looked at her when he said it made my hands clench. "Jennifer." They both turned. I watched the color leave her face in real time. For 1 second she looked terrified. Then the familiar performance clicked into place. The too bright smile, the slightly elevated voice, the manufactured ease. "Mike, you're back early. I thought you were spending the evening with Tyler and Danny." "Plans changed," I said. My eyes moved to him. "And who's this?" He extended his hand with the kind of confidence meant to establish dominance. "Marcus Del Roy. I work with Jennifer at the foundation." He told me she had said so much about me. "Funny," I said. "She's never mentioned you." I asked Jennifer what happened to the small gathering of the girls from work. She said word had gotten around and it grew. I repeated the word slowly. "Into what, exactly?" Marcus laughed. Actually laughed. Said no harm in people having a good time. I turned to him directly. 20 years of dealing with difficult customers had taught me how to read people. This man was trouble from the collar of his designer shirt to the sole of his expensive shoes. "You seem pretty comfortable in my house," I said. "How long have you and my wife been working together?" The question landed. His smile shifted, just barely, just for a second. I caught it. He gave me the smooth answer. Said Jennifer was incredibly talented, very dedicated to her work. Said the word dedicated in a way that made me want to end the conversation permanently. I stepped closer. Asked if all his work collaborations involved putting his hands on his colleagues. Jennifer told me to stop. Said I was being ridiculous. Said Marcus was just what? I cut her off. Helping himself to my kitchen? Making himself at home with my family's belongings while I was conveniently removed from the picture? The party noise faded around us as people began to notice the conversation shifting. Marcus tried to recover his composure. Told me I was misreading the situation. Used my first name like we were old friends. Said Jennifer and I were just colleagues and that was all. I watched Jennifer's hand move to his arm while she told me to stop making a scene. Even now. Even with me standing right there. That gesture told me what 6 months of behavior had been building toward. "So that's how it is," I said quietly. "I understand now." I pulled out my phone and started dialing. Within 10 minutes, my house was mostly empty. The mention of police had been enough. Marcus left without further argument. One last defiant look in my direction, then gone. Several guests followed him out without being asked. Nobody wanted to be part of whatever came next. Jennifer and I stood in our kitchen surrounded by empty bottles and the wreckage of the evening she had planned so carefully. She said we needed to talk. I asked her how long. She tried to deflect. Called it complicated. Said our marriage had been broken for a long time. I asked again. "How long?" 6 months, she finally said. 6 months. Half a year of coming home to her. Kissing her hello, asking about her day, planning our future, all while she was living another life with another man, all while I was working overtime to keep this family financially stable. She tried to explain. Said Marcus made her feel alive, desired, important. Said there was no passion between us anymore, that we had become roommates. I pulled up our banking information on her laptop and turned the screen toward her. I showed her the mortgage, the therapy sessions for Tyler, $300 out of pocket every week after insurance, both car payments, because hers was newer for driving Tyler to appointments, the utilities, the high-speed internet Tyler needed for his educational programs, the grocery bills that accounted for his dietary needs. I told her what her salary covered, maybe a quarter of our monthly expenses, on a good month. The rest of it came from me crawling under houses. "You want passion and excitement," I said. "Fine. But let's be honest about what you're actually choosing to walk away from. Because Tyler doesn't get to choose." I packed a bag and went to Danny's. My brother took one look at my face when I arrived with my overnight bag and handed me a beer without asking a single question. Just pointed at the couch and said it was mine for as long as I needed it. I lay awake until nearly 3 in the morning. My phone buzzed repeatedly with messages from Jennifer, apologies, explanations, promises to change. I stopped reading after the first few lines of the second one. Tyler woke up early the way he always does and immediately wanted to show me the modifications he and Danny had made to the train layout overnight. I sat beside him on the floor of Danny's garage-turned train room and watched him explain a new switching system with complete focused enthusiasm. "Dad, are you sad about something?" he asked without looking up. He always noticed more than people assumed he did. "I'm working through some grown-up problems," I told him. "Nothing you need to worry about." "Is it about Mom?" She seemed different yesterday when she was getting ready for the party. Even Tyler had seen it. I told him that no matter what happened between his mother and me, both of us loved him more than anything in the world. That would never change. He nodded seriously, accepted it, and went back to his trains. That was when I knew what the next step had to be. Over coffee, Danny gave me the name of a lawyer, someone who had handled his friend's divorce when the ex had tried to relocate their autistic daughter out of state. "Tough as nails," Danny said. "Doesn't mess around. Understands special needs custody issues." I called her that morning. The proceedings were brutal but faster than I expected. Jennifer fought for everything: the house, full custody, alimony. Her lawyer tried to paint me as a workaholic who valued money over family. But several guests from that night turned out to be more than willing to describe what they had witnessed in my kitchen. Jennifer's own behavior, the body language, the possessiveness, the way she had touched Marcus while her husband stood 2 feet away, was well documented by people who had been holding their phones the entire time. Marcus disappeared about 2 months into the proceedings. Apparently, the reality of dating a woman going through a messy divorce with a special needs child was considerably less appealing than sneaking around had been. Jennifer never mentioned him again after that. In the end, she settled for shared custody and half our assets after legal fees. I moved into a smaller apartment. Clean, quiet, and entirely mine. I set up Tyler's room exactly the way he liked it. Train collection organized, books arranged by category, everything in the right place. He spent weekdays with Jennifer and weekends with me. The schedule gave him the consistency he needed and kept him insulated from the tension that had been the constant background noise of the previous 6 months. My business did better than ever in the months that followed. Word had gotten around about my reliability, and I was able to hire 2 part-time employees. The extra income meant Tyler's therapy sessions were fully covered without stress, and I started rebuilding his college fund. I was building something again. Just on honest ground this time. 6 months after that Friday night, I was sitting in my apartment watching Tyler present his completed model of a Union Pacific big boy locomotive with the kind of focused pride that only exists in a 10-year-old who has spent 3 weeks on a single project. "Looks perfect," I told him. "Want to add it to the layout?" We spent the afternoon working on his trains, eating pizza, and talking about locomotives and science and everything and nothing. No tension in the room. No eggshells. No trying to read someone else's mood and adjust accordingly. This was what family was supposed to feel like. Jennifer came to pick him up that evening. She looked different than I remembered from before all of this, older somehow, quieter. The brightness she had carried during the affair period was gone, replaced by something that looked closer to regret. She watched Tyler gather his magazines and said she wanted me to know she understood she had thrown away something good. I told her we were co-parents now. That keeping things professional was what was best for Tyler. She nodded and accepted it. After they left, I sat in the quiet of my apartment and felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Contentment. Not happiness exactly. Not yet. But the specific peace that comes when you are finally living inside a life that is genuinely yours. No anxiety about what version of someone I would come home to. No wondering what was being hidden. No performing normalcy for the sake of maintaining something that had already stopped being real. What I had lost, what the divorce had actually cost me, was the weight of carrying someone else's dishonesty. Every day of those 6 months I had felt something was wrong and talked myself out of it. Had absorbed the unease and called it patience. Had worked harder and been more present and tried to close a distance I didn't understand, not knowing the distance existed because she had chosen to put it there deliberately. That weight was gone now. Tyler was thriving. His therapist had told me recently that his stress indicators had actually decreased since the separation. The household tension he had been absorbing without anyone realizing it had been affecting him in ways we were only now starting to understand. Kids on the spectrum often feel the emotional climate of a space more acutely than anyone around them acknowledges. He had known something was wrong. He had just had no language for it. Neither had I, for longer than I should have. What I know now, what I learned from all of it, is this. 18 years of building a life with someone creates the kind of deep comfort that can make you slow to see what's changing. You stop testing the foundation because you trust it. You stop checking the structure because you built it and you remember it as solid. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes, the person you built it with has quietly been dismantling it from the inside, and you are the last person to find out because you are the one who still believes in what you built. The solution is not to stop trusting. It is to stay awake to what you actually see rather than what you expect to see. It is to listen to the gut feeling on the drive away from your brother's house. It is to go back for the drill. Tyler will be okay. He is already more than okay. He knows his father shows up for every train layout, every school science Olympiad discussion, every morning when the routine matters and someone needs to be steady. That's enough. More than enough. It's everything. I run a pest control business. I spend my days finding what's hidden in the walls before it does real damage. Turns out I should have been trusting that instinct a little closer to home. Now I do. Thank you for watching.